Hey everyone, JCS StarCraft here, bringing you Game 1 of the semifinals for the Go4SC2 Cup number 36 between Naama and BratOK. Action getting started here on blistering sands, and both of these players, some of the top Terran players out there right now. Naama going to be spawning as the blue Terran in the upper right-hand corner, and BratOK going to be spawning as the red Terran in the bottom left-hand corner. Both of these players had qualified for the August final for Go4SC2. Naama, the 17-year-old from Finland, recently just took the second place, losing out in a fantastic game for the Go4SC2. Fantastic series between him and Mana. And meanwhile, BratOK actually won the finals for the Go4SC2 August finale, and just doing an incredible job there. That replay unfortunately wasn't posted, or still hasn't been posted, between him and Naama, but he did take it in just 3 games for that best of 5. So BratOK looking very strong right now, and great to see both of these players, I think, meeting up possibly for the first time, or at least the first time that I've been casting. I tried searching for Naama versus BratOK, but there haven't been any replays or any matches, so very exciting to see these players go at it. These Go4SC2 Cups are becoming increasingly popular, I think, for a lot of the pro players to participate in. They happen every Wednesday and Sunday. Maro has been playing in a lot of them, but was recently banned from the cup, I think, for some misbehavior, kind of complaining about the live streaming going on there. So right now, BratOK going to be starting with a pretty standard opening from his behalf, and Naama going to be doing the same. I'm pretty sure if they watch replays, I know that Naama was watching a lot of the IEM championships, and definitely has seen BratOK play before, so I'm curious to see how he's going to try to play against a very clever, and BratOK is known for his hit and run tactics. He, for me, is the king of coming back from behind, as there's just been several games of his where his army count is significantly lower, and is still able to kind of win strategically by kind of forcing his opponent to run all over the map right now. Now, something interesting about Naama that I think he's been holding on to, especially against Terran versus Terran, is waiting for orbital at 16, so that he gains that 1 extra SCV out before it comes down. Is a little bit behind in his timing. Sorry, that just paused the game for a second. Is a little bit behind in his timing. But I think that he kind of tries to eke out that economic advantage. And something I've been noticing, especially on the pro level of Terran vs. Terran, is just how much time is spent kind of attacking the supply line. It's probably the most critical component of it, in that if you can take out your opponent's supply line, they have such a hard time catching up, because outside of the mules, Terran players have no way of speeding up their SCV production. They can try to opt for an earlier expansion or a double expand at some point, but it's just that much harder to catch up. Unlike Toss or unlike Zerg, where they can, technically chrono boost or just drone up if they have to, Terran has no way to recover. So if you can gain that economic advantage in the early game with harassment, either by Banshees or some sort of medvac drop, and just hold out into the mid game while you expand, you will eventually outpace your opponent, and then can kind of just steamroll over in the mid to late game. So BratOK right now just pumping out a ton of Marines and getting a Hellion as well. Looks like he might be going, doesn't look like he's going to be going for any sort of early Banshee. Meanwhile, Naama is a little bit behind because of that, of the late orbital. So he's constructing everything just a little bit later. And, his Banshees do come out later, but he does have that slight economic advantage the whole time. Pro players, of course, are constantly keeping their SCV production up and running. This orbital command never will stop the command, so it will never stop pumping SCVs the entire game. And right now, BratOK, I think, just kind of keeping down the front door, might be moving up pretty soon with the units that he has, is getting a medevac as well, and now finally getting the tech lab down onto his racks. Meanwhile, a bunker already set up for Naama. Knows that he's a little bit behind, and if neither player has actually played each other before, not sure exactly entirely what to expect from their opponent. Naama going to be, looks like he is training the Viking out first. Looks like he was expecting some sort of Banshee play to occur. Did he throw a scan down? He did throw a scan down onto the base, and it is a late Banshee from BratOK, actually. So BratOK, I think, taking a cue from Select's playbook, or maybe Select taking the cue from BratOK's playbook, but going with the medevac drop first and going to be dropping 3 Hellions into the supply line and then switching over for a slightly later Banshee to come out. And it does look like BratOK will be researching Cloak at this point, so the harassment is going to push on ahead. Naama, meanwhile, is going to be taking an expansion, doesn't feel any pressure going down, and it looks like he's not going to be going with Banshee harassment. And right now the Hellions are coming in and just frying a few SCVs on the ground. SCVs are running everywhere as Naama is trying to bring his Marines to try to reinforce right now. BratOK, looking at the units lost tab, only able to take out 3 SCVs right there, and so not a huge gain entirely for BratOK at that point. And Naama did have really good reaction time, is able to run out, but Naama will have that command center up first and can recover a little bit, try to keep his economy back up and running. Looking at the income tab, actually, it does seem like for some reason or the other, Naama still ahead in his harvester count, 30/26 at this point. Not sure if BratOK temporarily stopped or what had happened there. Now throwing down a missile turret as his base. I think he did see the starport with the yes, he did. He did see the starport down there right now, but Naama not going to be going for the Banshee at all. And where is the Banshee for BratOK at this point? I think it is out onto the field. Now possibly streaming across. Here is his Banshee, now moving out across the field right now, going to take over this tower. But Naama should be ready for it, already performing his transfer at this point, and now it's just going to slowly start outpacing and possibly pulling ahead of his opponent, keeping the Viking and the Raven out to hunt down that Banshee if he can. The Banshee, keeping a look at the minimap right now, is trying to come in, is trying to cloak, but the Raven is already there, and unfortunately for BratOK, that Banshee will not be able to do any harassment at all. So Naama just doing a great job holding it off. Meanwhile, though, there is a drop going down on the other side, but Naama was ready for that as well. So doing a great job keeping his units split up. Looking at the units lost, it does look like Naama lost a few SCVs in that dual-pronged attack right there. But
looking at the harvester count, he is still ahead, 35-31 at this point, and will pull ahead even further as he does have his second command center down, his expansion down, and going to be getting more SCVs out of that. Meanwhile, has scouted that BratOK has landed his expansion as well and might be pressuring forward. I think he's just going to hold off a little bit while he masses a little bit faster than his opponent. Keeping an eye on the army count, and some sort of pause right there. His keyboard key went off. It is pretty even on both sides. Now 63/59. BratOK has established his expansion, his second base, first expansion, as some people like to call it, or as it should be referred to as. And right now, BratOK, I think, might be pressing on the front door a little bit to see what he can get. Knows that these units might be caught a little bit off guard as they're trying to hold this Xel'Naga watchtower. BratOK does have command of both the Xel'Naga watchtowers, and unfortunately for Naama, now trying to take over with that single Marine. BratOK might be able to try to take it out at this point. Another Marine going to be running in here, although this is a very weak Marine. Going to die pretty quickly to these two right there. And so BratOK does have better map sight and map control at the moment. Naama just a little bit turtling in for now and just trying to eke out that economic advantage if he can. Naama, unfortunately, just hasn't been able to really pressure his opponent right now, and taking more of a defensive stance by going with the Viking Raven combination, and now going to be caught a little bit off guard with his units. Can't lift up into the air as they will get shot down by the Vikings, and unfortunately PDD does go down to absorb some of the other Viking fire, but goes down a little bit late and loses one of the Vikings in the process. So Naama now retreating back to his base and kind of being forced to turtle in right now. He does have a slight economic advantage with that slight harvester count, but without being able to pressure, and that's one of the key components, of course, is to try to take out as many SCVs, even if you can take out 3 or 4 at a time over the course of the game into the mid to late game. You will start pulling ahead with a higher harvester count and, can pump out more units all the way through. But it looks like BratOK just doing an incredible job containing his opponent. Brought in that early Banshee, only made one of them to kind of keep Naama on guard and bulk up that way, and then switched immediately over to a similar Raven Viking in the air. And now things are going to be very close as both players are pumping out pretty much the same amount at the same time. So unit count is very important here. Neither player really wants to lose any units unnecessarily. And now Naama is going to be walking across, gets shot at right now because of the sight, and it's going to be walking into this, taking a bunch of fire unnecessarily, and Unfortunately, just caught a little bit off guard, overextends himself. Most of the tanks are going to be going down at this point for Naama, and just very unfortunate. One of these really important parts about holding that Xel'Naga watchtower. Naama trying to retreat at this point, but looking at the army count, 102 to 79, I think this might actually be it for Naama. He does not have enough tanks. BratOK will have the sight with the Vikings and can fry that tank from beyond pretty soon. So a GG going down from Naama. The Xel'Naga watchtower was absolutely huge for BratOK in this game, as he just kind of saw Naama's forces moving in already. So the site giving him a huge advantage there. And unfortunately for Naama, just overextending himself a little bit too early and losing on his units in that transition. So BratOK taking game 1 right now. This has been JCS StarCraft, and I am signing off.